Hello everyone. I was quite busy for last few days due to a new project being started and a lot of formalities were needed for that, so I couldn't give time for this video tutorials. So today I have tried to spare some time, and then my agenda was to continue with the IDocs. We are already done with BAPI in our last session, and BAPI is completed from my side. I have been receiving some emails. I tried to respond them as and when possible. Some of the comments which I responded on the YouTube and Google Plus pages. So while I thought I'll go ahead with the IDOC, I also realized that it's important that I make you guys aware of the enhancement concepts, at least some of the enhancement concepts, because IDOC uh, sometime what happens in IDOC when we receive the data from, let's say, outside system, and when we get it into SAP, before we actually process the IDOC, we want to do some modifications. So that time the concept of customer exits comes into picture. So what I'll do for first couple of minutes, we will discuss about the enhancement concept, that is user exit and customer exit. I'll try to give you a fair understanding on the same, and then we'll go ahead with the IDOC. So IDoc session will be, I think it will take some 2 to 3 tutorials uh, before we can actually complete it. So we'll just hold IDoc for time being. Let's talk about enhancement. So any product, any software, the USP would be, I mean, the unique sale point for that would be that it should be highly customizable. So while I'm saying that, what I'm trying to mean, I mean, what I'm trying to explain is uh, there are 10 types of customers, different, let's say 100 types of customers. They are into different business segments, different industries, different business types, different business groups. They a few of them are totally uh, I would say, for example, few of them are totally into service providers kind of mode, some of them into banking, somebody is into manufacturing. So when we are offering an ERP solution to these people, my solution should be able to work for all the industries, and whatever users requirement are there, it should be fulfilled by that offering. So same concept goes for SAP, and the USP for SAP is it's highly customizable. So even though a lot of things are being provided by SAP as a standard solution, but then it's customers' expectation that whatever they want to tweak, they should be able to, so that it meets their requirement. So of course we know that SAP offers a lot of best practices in terms of already predefined transaction solution, but then sometimes those best practices are not, I mean, useful to me. So I want to tweak it so that it meets my requirement. For example, SAP has already provided the US taxation details, and but if I'm running this in India, it should be able to solve my purpose also. So a lot of extensions are there. SAP has come up with a lot of customized solution. There is one called SIN, CIN. Basically, it's an extension to ST, and it's being used in most of the domestic projects. So SIN is nothing but country India version. So basically, it's Indian version of taxation and all. It's already available there. Similarly, if somebody is into banking sector, they want to go ahead with SAP, so they SAP has already a totally separate banking solution. So these are like industry specific offerings. You would have heard of IS retail, IS device management, billing, these kind of things. So these are different solutions provided by SAP. ECC is more towards production, planning, manufacturing kind of environment. So it's normal business process. It's available normal sales process, normal billing process, normal procurement and purchasing process. It would be available in ECC. But if you want to serve your customers, for example, you want to take care of their specific needs, you want to record their calls, you want to take their feedback. So CRM solution is there. Similarly, you want to take care of your vendors or your suppliers. You want to take care of their needs. SRM solution is there. But then ECC is again, I mean, within your office, within your company, within your plant, ECC is more than sufficient to serve the needs of the users. It could be internal customers of various departments. So that way. So for example, there is an employee and then there is an HR department. So that employee is an internal customer to the HR department. Similarly, um, we have finance department, then we have sales department. So I think almost everyone would be an internal customer to the finance department. So that way, so ECC is sufficient to help in that case. So we just, I mean, we'll just put it on hold, this one, industry specific solution. We are not discussing about that. We are only talking about ECC at this point of time. Now, when we are talking about ECC, we want to talk about customizing the ECC system. There are two kind of customization. One is through SPRO. I have already explained that normally what happens when we purchase the product from SAP, it will be more like a raw product. Most of the time we'll call it like empty box. So a lot of things we customize there. So in SPRO, via SPRO, we go to different segments and then we create company codes, we create plants, we create customers. A lot of things we do there. Few things through SPRO, few things through transactions and all. So basic setup will be done there, but then the way a predefined transaction runs in SAP, at times I might want to do some tweaking in between. I might want to restrict that transaction for few conditions. I might want to modify the data in between. I might want to do something when the user hits on the save button. So a lot of customizations in the front end and the logic in the back end can be taken care by the enhancement concepts. So we have a couple of enhancement concepts provided by SAP. One second, let this get open. And then if you focus on this, it will also help you to answer some of the interview questions. So it's like purely theoretical. Yeah. So the concepts are user exits, then we have customer exits, then we have badding. In this we have classic badding, we also have new badding, then we have enhancement framework, then we have business framework. I think that's it. So before we actually start discussing on the IDocs, I wanted to explain about user exits and customer exits. Basically, we need to have knowledge on customer exits, but then it's also good to have the concept on user exits as well, so that these two topics will be finished. And then BADI I'll discuss once I start the object-oriented sessions. Enhancement framework and business framework I'll discuss after IDOC. So okay, so coming to user exits, and then we'll discuss about customer exits. So user exits is more of a classic concept. Classic concept means when SAP initially started its offering. So in the very initial versions like 3.1H and then coming to 4.6B and 4.6C. So SAP came up with the concept of user exits. So user exits, in the interview somebody might ask you what is an user exit. So user exit is basically, it's a code block, and it's a blank code block. So blank code block in the form of a subroutine, which means form and form. So this kind of space would be provided by SAP like this: form, user exit, delete document. This kind of free space or a free coding block would be provided by SAP. And then, so this is basically my form. And then the perform of this subroutine would lie in the standard code. So let's try to navigate to the standard code. Okay, so when I did a double click on that form or the subroutine, it actually took me to the perform, original perform, and if I double click here, so you can see that this perform is actually inside the standard include, which is a part of standard program. Now MV45A, so anyway, so by looking at it, I can see that it's a part of sales related customization or sales related user exit. But then let's see how we can find it out. So first thing, it's a blank coding block provided by SAP, which would actually lie in between the standard piece of code. Now, to write a code in this, there are two options. So till the time we didn't had ECC environment, in ECC 5.0 onwards, we had to click on the change button, and then we had to provide an access key for this. So this access key is very similar to the screen exit, which I explained in my last session related to BAPI. The screen exit related to VA01 additional data bit tab. Similarly, you need to register this object in SAP marketplace, and then you'll get an access key. You can continue, you can modify this. After having ECC, we had some other concepts like implicit and explicit enhancements, using which we can do the same thing, and we don't really require a developer's key for this, and then the object would not be modified. So the risk here is, if we modify a standard object, then SAP would not provide a support to that object. So for example, if I modify this object, so once you provide that access key there in that pop-up, so you can see that it's modified now. I can insert my code. So while you are modifying the standard object, you have to go via modification assistant. You can insert a piece of code here. You click on insert, and then a marker would be inserted here. You can remove this star, you can write whatever, let's say breakpoint or something. And then similarly you can delete it also. Okay, and similarly replace a particular line area. For example, breakpoint, it was already there. You can click on. Okay, it's not activated. That's the reason it's causing this problem, because it's actually not yet considered in the SAP coding space. So I'm not going to do that. Once you hit on replace, similarly you will get this kind of marker, replace, and then you can write a new piece of code. This will be commented. If I click on delete, it will be commented, and then delete marker would be inserted. So this is the classic concept. So what actually, even I have done it for quite some time. When I was working on 4.6 BC and even 4.7 version, I used to register that object in SAP marketplace site, and then I used to modify this. Now, coming to the risk, as I have already explained, the moment you register an object in SAP Marketplace, SAP makes a note of it. And then, if you raise any problem on this particular standard include, you say that there is a bug in this one, SAP would say that you have already modified this and we are not going to support it. So till the time a piece of code remains standard, SAP will support it. But if the if the piece of code actually is not standard or it's been modified by the user or by the developer, it's out of the SAP scope. So SAP would simply raise its hands. So that's why it was, even though this was used very widely, even as of today also I can see it's being used in many of the projects, but then it's not a very advisable concept. But still, what is an user exit? So it's a coding block. It's a blank coding block provided by SAP. Basically, it's a subroutine for which the main perform would lie in the standard code. And we require a developer's key to modify that object and to write our code. ECC 6 onwards, we can use enhancement framework, that is implicit enhancement, and then you don't need to modify this. So how to use an implicit enhancement, that also I'll explain. So you can see different performs are there. User exit field modification. You want to make any field active or you want to make any field inactive, you can do it here. Basically, it's kind of screen modification. You can move fields to VBAK structure here. For example, you have some custom fields. You can move that value here. So SAP has put this perform at that particular place where it can easily consider the custom fields and it can add it into the standard code. So these are okay. So anyway, so what I'm going to explain for now. For example, user exit number range using this number range internal table. So internal number range. Sorry. So what this particular piece of code is going to do, you want to define a number range here. For example, if you are creating a sales order for a plant 1000 or a company code 1000, let's say, then you want the sales order number to be started from 9. If you are doing it for a company code 2000, then you want to start it from 8. So that control can be done here. Now, so I would also talk about implicit enhancement here. So what you need to do, you need to click on this coin button. We call this coin button. The moment you click here, you will see this kind of change. Go to edit, enhancement operation, show implicit enhancement option. The moment you do, this kind of line would be created in the beginning and end of that coding block. So implicit enhancement is basically an enhancement concept provided by SAP, using which you can write your piece of code in the beginning and end of a coding block. So what you need to do, you go there, do a right click, enhancement implementation, create, choose type of enhancement. So I want to code. I don't want to declare any data here. I want to code. Okay, so I don't know what happened. Let me create it again. Okay, because it went to local object, so I think that's the reason it's not appearing there. We'll create a new one. So I'm going to put it under a transport. So now it will appear here. So this is a learning for you. Whenever you are trying to create an implicit enhancement, don't put it under local object. You provide a package so that it can create a transport, and the whole purpose of doing this activity is basically SAP would be able to track the versions of this enhancement. So transport is mandatory. So hit OK. So now you can see SAP inserted a place by default. So earlier, if you remember, a few moments back we were talking about modifying this object using a developer's key or an access key, and then by using some insert and delete button, that was basically modification assistant. So now we don't need to do that. SAP has provided me a coding place by inserting an implicit enhancement here. So enhancement name, and enhancement. This is the number assigned by SAP, enhancement number. So what you need to do, similarly you can remove this star, you can write your own piece of code, breakpoint and all. So for now we'll just activate this enhancement. So in the interview, if somebody is asking what is an user exit, so user exit is basically, again I'm repeating again and again, blank piece of code or blank coding block which is actually inserted inside the standard piece of code. Earlier, till 4.7, we used to register the object under in SAP Marketplace, and we used to give the access key and modify the standard object. But ECC onwards, we use implicit enhancement to enter our code in those user exits. So basically, you can see SAP is here by the flexibility offered by SAP. Two concepts can be merged, which is user exit and implicit enhancement, or they are complementing each other. So we'll wait for a moment to get this activated. And by saying that, you can also see it's not just about my user exit. So it's basically, now I'm talking about user exit. So I mean, you can refer to user exit, but then it's basically my standard code. Wherever I have a coding block, it could be form and form, it could be uh, let's say there is an include. So in that include, it will be like in the beginning and end, it will be a function module. So between function and end function, wherever you want, you can create an implicit enhancement, and then you can write your piece of code. So it gives really a very good flexibility in terms of customizing the solution by taking the help of an ABAP consultant. So there are a lot of things which cannot be done via SPRO, and that's the reason ABAP consultants are always in demand. Of course, a good ABAP consultant. So let this get activated. Okay, I'll pause the recording so that it doesn't waste your time. Okay, so now you can see it's activated now. So I can obviously write my piece of code here. So what I did, I under this coding block user exits move field to VBKD, I created an enhancement, and I really don't need to register the object to SAP Marketplace, and I don't need to modify the standard object, and that way there is no risk. So SAP would obviously support this. And then one more thing, the moment I clicked on edit enhancement operation, show implicit enhancement, under all coding blocks you can see that option in the beginning and in the end. So it could be form and form, it could be function, which is like SE37 function module. So between function and function, or it could be in the include or in the report, in the beginning and end, you'll see this facility. So it's very I would say it's like very helpful tool provided by SAP. Now coming to the other part, like how I came to know about MV45 AFZZ. So why I am talking about this? So basically I am talking about this through my experience. So as a general concept, you should remember MV45 related includes or user exit are for order. MV50 related to delivery, and RV60 related to billing. So MV45 order, MV50 delivery, RV60 billing. This is something you have to remember. But then how to find it out? I mean, how to go through the concept. So the concept is I open that transaction. I open the transaction for which I want to see the user exit. Most of the time you will be looking either for customer exit or baddie or enhancement spot, but then VA01, VL01, and then what else, VF01, these things, because these are coming since long in SAP. So you can sometimes you can also look for user exits, which we were just looking at. So let the transaction get opened first. So I can go to system status, double click on this program, click here. Okay, so the moment you click here, you will come to SAT screen. So now you have this program, the main program. Under this, you'll be having includes. In those includes, you'll see the user exit which I was talking about. So MV45AF and lot of things. In this, if you just keep on scrolling, you'll find MV45AFZZ as well. And we have other important exits, user exits, MV45AFZE, AFZC. So we have ZZ. They have also given the description here. Don't go with the description. You are not bothered about description. You are bothered about your requirement. So once you go into MV45 AFZZ, you'll see different coding blocks or different subroutines. The name of the subroutine itself would explain the basic functionality of that, using which you can write your code to customize the transaction flow. You have MV45, AFZ, AFZ, B, ZC, ZD, lot of things. So, okay, so as I was saying, like delete document, or you want to modify the field, enable or disable it, move field to VBAK. And this is the enhancement we just created. Number range, so basically, as I said, based on the company code or something or plant, you want to change the number range of that document. And then here you'll see, so you can see pricing prepare, you want to change some pricing related stuff here, you can do that. And then save document, so when you save document is one, and you have save document prepare. So basically, when the user hits on the save button while creating a sales order, you might want to break there, and then you might want to do some kind of validation. So so what we'll do to, so first I'll try to give a demo on this, how it happens. So let me, in same document, okay, save document prepare, let's do one thing, let's quickly create a new enhancement. Edit, modification, enhancement operation, show implicit enhancement. Create code, make it G enhancement 3, put it in a package as we did earlier in a transport, and then you'll find it at the end. So highlight that, hit OK. Now we'll put a breakpoint. So I am putting a hard breakpoint here, which is okay, I'll remove it, but while you are doing it in the real time, you put breakpoint with your username, so it should be like break SAP user, like we have here. Okay, so let's activate this. Okay, so it got activated. Now if I go to VA01, so we are creating a sales order here using VA01. Provide the order type, RO is rush order. It can be customized. Most of the time it will be customized. And then Okay, let's say we don't do anything. If I hit enter, the system will do some processing in the backend. It will validate a lot of things like sold to party, shipped to party, PO number and all, and then we'll go ahead and save it. So it's done now. Now I can save it. So the moment I hit on save button, it actually takes me to my enhancement, which is GENS3, which is under user exit save document prepare. Now I can do a lot of things here because I have the control in my hand now. So whatever I'll write between enhancement and end enhancement, which actually would be a part of this form end form, I can do whatever I want. You can see already some code is written here. So if I go here and then the other thing which I wanted to explain is all the standard structures and internal tables would be available here. VBAK. So it's just a structure because it contains the header data. So it will be a structure. You have VBAP. So there is nothing in VBAP because what we did, we didn't enter any line item here. If there are multiple items, it will be internal table. We have VBUP, then we have XVBAK, we have YVBAK, we have CVBAK. A lot of structures, standard structures provided by SAP. So XVBAK is basically it will hold the current data. Whatever we entered currently, that would be available in XVBAK, which would eventually be transferred into VBAK. Why VBAK is basically something like you are modifying a sales order. So the existing data would be captured under the old data would be captured under YVBAK. The new data which you are entering would be, so for example, you are changing the material quantity. So the old quantity would be available under that would be basically YVBAP. Yeah, so old one would be available in YVBAP. New one would be available in XVBAP. So X means current, Y means old, C means I think whenever you try to delete something, it will come under CVBAK and CVBAP. So it's very important to know about these structures. VBAK, the standard ones will be there. You don't need to touch that. What you can do, you can validate from this. You can check whether VBAP hyphen matter is initial or not. So what we can do here, for example, I comment my breakpoint, and if I check here if VBAP hyphen matter is initial, message enter material type key. Okay, pretty printer won't work in the enhancement. You can simply activate the enhancement. Parallelly you can come out of this because we need to run the transaction again to test it out. Yes. Looks like I clicked on the wrong button. Okay. Okay. It came here finally. Okay. So now if I try to create a sales order, I clicked on many things. My God. Okay, and then if I go inside, I give all the details, hit enter. Hit enter, and if I try to save here, you can see that it's generating a message enter material because this material is not entered here. Okay, I'll try to restart my system today, but it has gone very slow. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll comment this piece of code. It was just a demo. So now the next question which arises here is, okay, I know the difference. I mean, okay, I know what is an user exit. I know how to write a code inside the user exit. I know how I can look for all the available user exits or all the available includes. But then how to decide that which one is going to help me, which one is helpful to me. So that would be the next question. I don't know why it's not going on. Okay. So there are two ways of doing it. The very first thing which you can do, please go and Google it out. 90% of the chance that you'll get your answer, like which user exit or which customer exit or which baddie or which enhancement spot, which one should be satisfying your requirement. 90% of the time, if you are good with Google search, you can find it out. But then that is not the answer. So we'll talk about user exit, how to find out the user exit. So what I will do here, whenever I need to find out an user exit, I can go to a CAT, I can open those all the includes, I can quickly run through the common includes which I am aware of. I'll try to find out which one is related to save or which one is related to whatever. But then to validate this, what I will do, I will go to VA01. So it will compile it again because we disturbed the standard code flow. So it will compile it again. So the answer to that question, if somebody asks you, you don't tell him that you will go and Google it out. You do it personally, but then to answer it, you go. So the answer would be like you go to SEAT, you try to run through the common includes available there quickly, but then just to validate the best one for your need, you will go to that particular place where you want to identify, and then you will debug it. That is the best option to find out an user exit. For example, here I'll put a slash h, I'll hit on save button, and without any hesitation I'll go and debug. I'll debug to see what all things I can find out. So by now you must be good with debugging. If somebody is actually following my videos. can also see that there is an enhancement point here. We will discuss about it later. So here you can see I can see perform user exit move field to VBAK, which is actually so this one is VBKD, VBEP, VBAP, VBAK. So MV45AFZZ form this. So the perform lies here. So if I do F5, it came to MV45AFZZ to that place. And if I come out, I can continue. If I go to VBKD, okay. So you need to keep on debugging till the time you don't see the proper perform or the proper place which can actually justify your requirement. So what I could have done is I could have put a breakpoint there and then, but anyway, just to give a demo, let's keep on debugging. Okay, I will. Okay, still running. Okay, so it didn't stop there. Looks like it came out, so that is okay. So the answer is basically you need to keep on debugging till the time you don't really reach to a place where you can write your code to achieve the task. Debugging is the best solution to find out an user exit, of course, after Google. So now I would say we are done with user exit. We'll move to the concept of customer exit. So what happened? Because again, it was a classical concept. Later, SAP realized that modifying the standard piece of object every time is not a good idea. It also contains the risk, and then which eventually would lead to a lot of errors in the product, and then people reaching out to SAP for help, which eventually would increase their burden. So, and of course, every time people always keep on looking for the scope of improvement. So that is how SAP came with the concept of customer exit. So customer exit is something, again, I mean, the control is given to the customer, but then in the form of a function module. So that's why most of the time a customer exit would also be known as function module exit or a function exit. So what happens, SAP would so I'll come out of it now. Okay, so what happens, SAP would create the basically customer exits, which would be called as a function module. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, I'll pause this for a second. Looks like some issue in the activation. I'll activate the standard code so that okay, so got activated. So yeah, so by now you know the concept of user exit, and you also know the concept of implicit enhancement. So coming to the customer exit, so user exit was like I am writing some code like report the ABC. It's like my standard transaction, the way SAP designed. So something like this perform ABCD, and then somewhere this perform is called in a different include in MV45 AFZZ. In this I have this form ABCD and form. You can write your code here using the structures and tables available here. You can simply modify them. So this was the concept of user exit. Implicit enhancement in the beginning and end. In that form and end form you can write your piece of code. Now coming to function exit. So what SAP did, because there was a huge risk involved in the concept, but then of course VA01 and other transactions, it takes a lot of time to consider all the scenarios, all the business scenarios and stabilize it. They did not phase it out. The concept remains there as it is, still being used very widely. But then they came up with the concept of function exit. So what they did, same thing, report something. I'm writing my code here called screen or something, whatever. Keep on writing the code. And at some point of time, what they did, call function 001 with importing, exporting, let's say flag, something. So what they did, based on the required business processes, which SAP feels that people would like to customize on that, they added this statement call function. Basically, it will be call customer function. Call customer function. They added like this in the code, call customer function 001, which actually would point to a particular function module. That function module will start with exit underscore blah 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 blah. So they will call that function module inside the standard code. They will import the standard structures and tables in that function module, and in that function module they will provide a z include. Let's say include z abcd. Using that z include, so now the moment it becomes a z, the controls is goes in your hands. You can double click on that z include, you can just edit that code, and that basically that function module would be function module would start working here in the coding. So now how exactly this process happens? So we will talk about a function exit now. Now we have a code in we have a transaction in SAP in PP module that is called MD01. I'm talking about a real-time example here. The previous one was also a real-time example. If you want to add in your CV, you can mention that you implemented user exit MV45 AFZZ, the form save document prepare to validate some of the data entered by the user, whether the material and plant combination is correct or not, something like that. So you can mention that in your CV. Coming to this, MD01 is basically MRP Run. MRP is material requirement planning, which is like in the coming future or in the near future, how much material we would be needing. So how to plan it basically, what kind of planning we need for the particular material in our plant. It could be a raw material, it could be a finished good, whatever it is, but what kind of planning is required there. So For that, they will do a material requirement planning. To do that, MD01 is the transaction provided by SAP, and we call it MRP Run. So it's a heavy transaction, it's a huge transaction. Most of the time it will be executed in the background. It will be executed periodically, and then that is enough for us to know now. So I want to customize this transaction, and I want that for a particular situation, this MRP run should not happen. It should happen for everything else, but then for a particular condition, it should not happen. So while the MRP run actually happens, it takes care of everything. It takes care of the material, it takes care of the plant, it takes care of various other things. But then you want to restrict it for a few things. So I have MD01. So how to find out a customer exit for a particular transaction? Very famous interview question when you are in the experience range of 2 to 3 years. So system, go to the program, or do one thing, not like this. Okay, so you go to SE93 and give the transaction name, hit on display. You will get the package. So package is MD. Now we have two transactions provided by SAP. First one is SMOD. SMOD is the transaction for, so it's called SAP Enhancement. Here what you can do, you can go and look for the customer exits or function exits available in SAP. So you do F4, hit on information system, give the package name here, MD star, give a star, hit OK. You will see the list of all the available customer exits which would be applicable to the transaction or the package MD01, and you need to identify the best one, best suited one. So you can see that I have MC1X0001 for PPMRP materials planning, MC1X0002 MRP material requirement planning evaluation. So these two customer exits are provided by SAP for MD01 transaction. So if I open this, so I selected one, let's say 0001. If you click on display, then you have to go to components. You'll see two different function modules. So it starts with exit. So the same thing which I explained here, exit blah blah. In that, so function module would start with exit. In that there would be an include. So this one is for MRP material planning. This is also for the same. So I checked both. When I click on this, when I select this, and when I click on this, so you'll see that sample code is provided by SAP. It may or may not be provided in many cases, so don't rely on this, but in this case it's provided. If you click on the sample code, you'll come to know that what kind of restrictions we can put in this user exit. So here what we can do, based on certain keys, user keys entered on the main screen, we can do our validation. So 0001 is basically related to FE, so basically related to the material type restriction. So if there is a material type FERT, you can mention no planning equal to X, and then no planning would be done for that material type. Similarly, materials with MRP type PD. So if the material's MRP type is not PD, then don't do the planning. Reorder point material. So a lot of restrictions. I mean, we don't get into the theoretical concept why and why not. But the thing is, we can achieve this. Like if you don't want to do the planning for a particular material type, you can implement this user exit. So how we found it out? We found it out by the package of the transaction MD01. But then in reality it might be difficult. So take the help of SCN and Google, SAP Community Network and Google. You'll find your answer quick and easy. Now, so SMOD is SAP modification, basically to find out the customer exits provided by SAP. And I'll open this function module in a new session. If you click on display, you'll see that there is an include which starts with G. So now the control is in your hand. If you double click here, so you can easily go inside and write your code. So already I think some implementation is done. Okay, So already it's being implemented. So I'll explain that how you can implement this. Now before this, if I select this function module, if I do a where use list, if I hit OK, if I double click here, so we are doing a reverse engineering to see how it's being called in the standard program. You can see that in a subroutine user exit 001, they have called call customer function 001 with user key, user parameter, lot of things, which actually returns whether the planning should be done or not. If the planning is not to be done, they will clear it. They will clear that count and they won't do the planning. So it's a feature provided by SAP in the standard code by way of calling a customer function module. If you double click here, it will take you to that function module. So the navigation is actually linked internally. It's not that they have mentioned 001, so it won't navigate. So sometimes you can debug the standard code like I did for VA01 and try to find out if there is any customer function exit available or not. Or you can rely on the package way of searching it, or you can also Google it out, or in SCN you can find it out in the community network. Somebody would try to help. So a lot of ECC scenarios are already available over internet. So that is the concept. So this is how it's linked. Now how to implement this? Since it's already implemented, I think I won't be able to. So but still, okay. So the transaction to implement it's CMOD, CMOD, and then you need to create a project. Let's say you're creating a project ZProj, create, give a short text, MRP Run, exit, hit enter, enhancement, assign, go to enhancement assignment first, yes, put it in a package, okay, give the enhancement name, hit enter, go to components. Now you can see that I can see the two function exits available here. So, and then you can see it's in red color. So hit on the change button and then activate this. So enhancement ZProj was activated, and then you can see all green buttons now, which means the customer exit is implemented. So to implement a customer exit, you have to go to CMOD. You need to create a project. In the project, you have to go to enhancement assignment, give that user exit name which you found out from either Google or through the package, and then go to components, activate this by hitting the change button and double click there and activate there. Now if you double click in the user exit and if you go in this include, you can click on the change button, you can put a breakpoint here, and then it will stop here. So now you know the linkage, how it's actually linked. Now if you go to MD01, so it's compiling again because we tweaked the standard flow. So here it won't stop because this MRP run happens in the background. Okay, it's stopping. Good. It basically depends on the settings. So the settings are not changed being a dummy system. But then if the MRP run takes a lot of time, the functional consultant will schedule this in the background by default. So you can see I have the user key. You can double click on the user key, and if I go to the transaction, the user key was provided as 001. So you'll get this input from your functional consultant, the PP consultant. So we provided 001, which is for material type. So based on the user key, I can do my tweaking here. So I'll just come out. I can go to the code. So they have used a case statement, case user key. Comment your okay, let it be there when 001 if. So now you can take the help of the dummy code provided there. So you can see that this structure, now how to identify the structure. If I double click here, I go to the import parameter, you can see that MRP view of material master, the structure is basically taken as an input. So you have all these things which you will get as an input, and then you can do the tweaking in the source code, against which you need to export to the program is either no planning or stop planning. Similarly, at times you will get internal tables also. Here you can use those internal tables and tweak your code. So in the source code, inside this you can write your code. So same way you need to utilize that structure provided by SAP. This structure, in this structure you will have the material type. So the material type field is empty ART. So what you can do, if not equal to ABCD, let's say no underscore planning equal to X. Very simple coding. It will be simple or complex depending on the requirement. So you can mention in your CV that you implemented the customer exit to restrict the MRP run using transaction MD01 for material type, for a particular material type. So now if I go to MD01 again, and breakpoint is already there, I guess. Okay, if I give, so you have to note it that if you are passing 001, your code is going to work only for 001. You have to pass 005 here in order to work it for 005 condition. Hit enter, 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 enter. It will go, user key is 001, so it will hit your code now. So material type is HALB, and we are checking for ABCD. So no planning is X. It will come out of it. In the standard code it will go, and then it will take the call accordingly. So we are sure that now it's not going to do the MRP run for all the material types which are not ABCD. So this is how we implement the customer exit. Now we have two important tables which you should remember and could be a part of interview question. One is called MODSAP, MODSAP. So you can come here and it will ask for the SMOD exit name. Copy this enhancement name which we selected, provide it here, execute. You will get the function module name. Copy this function module name. Okay, no problem. Go to another table, MODACT, MODACT, which means active modifications. Go there, and here you need to provide the name of the project. So the name of the project was ZProj, I believe. So here you will see that the exit is here, it's implemented now. So what you can do it other way around. You can copy this, instead of giving this you can So this way you can identify the project. So sometime what happens, the customer exit is already implemented, so you can take the help of this table MODACT, and you want to check whether it's really active or not, and whether an active implementation exists or not against that customer exit. So customer exit or function module exit are the same thing. SMOD is to identify this the customer exit available for a particular transaction using the package of that transaction. CMOD is to implement that customer exit by creating a project and then entering the enhancement name and then activating the components of that. Once the components are activated, you go to the Z include in that provided inside that function module, and then you access the import and changing or tables parameter, and you export the required values to the standard program, which will affect the standard program. So these are the concepts of uh, user exit and customer exit, which, so I would say it's done from my side. Implicit enhancement is also done from my side, and now we can move to IDOC, because it was mandatory to have these concepts before you can actually uh, understand some of the concepts in IDOC. So we'll just come out from these useless sessions now. So okay, it's like, okay, we are already like 1 hour and 12 minutes. Let's continue for 10 more minutes, and then we'll pause today, and then we'll move to IDocs tomorrow. So IDocs basically, the full form of IDoc is intermediate document. So intermediate document means something which exists in between two different things. So it's like we have a system A and we have a system B, and then both of them are communicating to each other. So it's like they are talking to each other. It's like two-way flow. A is talking to B, B is talking to A. Then in between, whatever documents are being exchanged, we will call them IDocs, intermediate documents. That is one way of understanding it. The other way of understanding it would be IDoc. It's basically it's a language which SAP can understand. Now, SAP can understand, which is not a big deal because IDoc is a SAP tool. IDoc is provided by SAP itself, so SAP can obviously understand it. So how about others? So we have different people working on different technologies who eventually wants to interact with your organization, which means they actually need to interact with your SAP system. So there, so something should be there which can understand their language and transfer to your requirement, and then same thing can understand SAP IDoc and transfer to user's requirement. So I'm talking about a real-time scenario again now. I was working for one of the retail distributors, automobile retail distributors based out of US. So what happens? Distributor means, and especially a retail distributor means, what they will do, they will procure the goods from the manufacturer, and then they will just sell. They will sell it off to the small vendors. So I mean, they are not going to sell it through, or okay, at times they might do that also. Let's not talk about that. So retail distributor means a very big retail distributor. They will just procure the goods from the manufacturer, and they will eventually sell it off to the small vendors, or they will have their own stores, and then they will uh, just sell through their store directly also. So these are the different ways. I mean, so the store may or may not exist. It all depends on the company's nature of business. So It's basically we have a big manufacturer, then we have the distributors, and then we have the end customers. And customers means these guys will take the goods from this guy, and then eventually they will sell it to the basically we'll call them sellers, and then we have end customers. So you think about a scenario in India. You have let's say you have Mankind Pharmacy. So Mankind Pharmacy produces lot of medicines or lot of other medical kits or tools, whatever, and then they are not in the business of selling it. They just manufacture it, and then they are done. So they will do their research, they will manufacture those medicines or other stuff from their side, and then they want somebody to distribute it to different people. Now a big distributor would come into picture. A distributor is someone who can take care of the whole state. It's like state level distributor, or at least 10 to 15 districts. So a big distributor would come into picture, and then what they will do, they will be having an agreement with the manufacturer. So through that agreement, what they will do, distributor will pick the goods or the medicine from the manufacturer on a regular interval or based on the demand. It's not that just agreement, it could be demand also, high or low. So based on the demand or the agreement, they will pick the goods from the manufacturer, and they will give it to the sellers. So it's like what they did, Mankind, or let's say GlaxoSmithKline or Dr. Reddy's. So what happens, this distributor went there and then picked, let's say 10,000 cases of crocin pill, and then so let's say this guy picked 10,000 cases or cartons, you can say 10,000 cartons of crocin, and then we have another 1,000 medical stores in a particular city. It could be MedPlus, it could be Apollo, it could be Hitro. Okay, so we have Hitro Pharmacy, and then we have various blah blah local vendors. Somebody has opened their own medical store, let's say ABCD Medicals. So we have 1,000 medical stores or medical shops which will procure or purchase, let's say purchase, which will purchase those cases of crocin based on their requirement, and eventually they will sell it to the end customers like us. So this is the scenario. Now in this scenario, this will remove this end customer. Nobody is bothered about the end customer, which is very real, I would say, scenario again. So we are not bothered about the end customer. They will come there, they will buy it. So now we are bothered about this guy, the distributor, because this guy has to be in the business. So this guy has to communicate with the manufacturer, and then this guy has to communicate with all these guys. Now this guy, let's say, uses an application made in Java. This guy uses an application made in .NET. This guy simply sends a fax. This guy sends an email. This guy just calls. Someone else is having SAP. So what happens, using these tools, these guys will place their order of crocin to this guy. So if this guy is not able to communicate to these guys, then this guy is in soup. So he cannot sustain the business. because these guys will say we are like small shops, we cannot afford big ERP some like Oracle or SAP. We will be using small web-based applications on Java or .NET, or will simply fax you, will simply send a fax to you for our orders, and then you need to take care of it. I'll send you an email. I can fill an online form, let's say, and I can place you my order. You need to just honor my order. That's it. So these guys are the kings here. They are not bothered about it. This guy is bothered. So this guy has to uh, set up a system in such a way that it's like open-ended communication. So whenever these sellers create a sales order in these various ways, it should reach to the distributor in its SAP system, and a sales order should be created in this system successfully, so that the items can be delivered, or those cases of grossing can be delivered to these guys without any problem on their required deadline, before their required deadline, which means delivery date and all. And at the same time, using this data, this guy has to do a forecasting, and accordingly this guy should be able to pick the grossing from the manufacturer. Now this guy manufacturer is using, let's say, Oracle here. So this guy is saying, okay, I'm the manufacturer, I'm not bothered about you. So this guy is in the big problem. But to sustain in the business, this guy has to set up a system which is open-ended in terms of communication, and it should be able to communicate to anyone. So it's not that these guys are not cooperative or something, like these guys or these guys. Everybody would cooperate, but then the main, I would say, the pain this guy has to bear. So because this guy is using SAP, and SAP as a solution, because we keep on saying, we recommend to the customers by saying that it's very flexible. So SAP should be able to understand even a fax or an email or the calls. So whatever it is. So there is a call, and then you just call to a particular number, and then in that number, there could be, let's say, automated system is there. It takes your order directly. You press some buttons, and your order is registered. Or the fax, you send a fax, and then the fax data is not printed. Instead, it gets converted into a file there, something like that. So this is the scenario. Now, so I'm not going to discuss much today. I'm going to stop here because I need to go for my dinner. But then we'll see tomorrow that how this guy can achieve this by creating an IDOC, by using the IDOC concept, how this guy can achieve this. So I think we are good for today, and we'll catch up again tomorrow or my next session whenever it happens. So I hope you guys are good with the enhancement, I mean user exit, customer exit, and implicit enhancement concepts, and we'll just continue with IDOC again in our next video. So thank you, and we'll catch up again.